Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1282. Hi, I'm Mike Matthews, broadcasting from Café Anyway, located somewhere in Podcaster Valley, Mont. Today, we bring you a wonderful segment called Ain't Life Grand, and we talk to Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley, and we get all excited because now a 3-day weekend is upon us.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Of course, I'll be working all 3 days, but that's fine, because I can roll with it, baby.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I had an interesting experience happen to me yesterday while I was driving home. Let's just say an animal jumped out in front of my car. Don't worry, even though I hit him hard. It was a deer. I hit a deer. Well, the deer hit me, actually, but he was fine.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
He ran away. Ran away. He was fine. All's well. So
Mike's
yeah.
Daily
Well, this is
Podcast.
it was one of those things in life that happens in slow motion. Because I'm in that area in Union City just as it becomes Hayward, and I'm on Mission. And right there, you're right by the mountain. There's a cemetery there, and there's this big fence. And I'm the first one. I'm the only one on the road, on my side of the road, and I see up ahead of me a deer running on the sidewalk, and he's trying to get over to the mountain again. But there's this fence around the cemetery, and at one point, the opening to the cemetery is there, and he runs right past it. I don't understand why. He didn't make a right turn and go. That he would have had access, but you can't explain this to a deer as it's running along. So I give it wide berth. I don't want to hit the deer. So I'm driving, and this is going on for about a minute. And I'm driving really slow, letting the deer run along, and I feel bad. He's trying to run with the hooves on the sidewalk, and it doesn't look like it's pleasant for him. And he's running along, and he looks all disheveled, and I'm just trying to give him Then all of a sudden, he cuts left, and he crosses the entire street, and I'm like, I hope he doesn't get hit by any of the cars going the opposite direction. But the cars, they're stopping, and so he comes back over towards my side, and then he's back on the sidewalk again, and he's running along, and there was a pedestrian up ahead, and he sees the deer coming towards him, so he crosses the street. And then the deer is still going. This is happening for quite a while now, as I am telling the story, and somebody's walked in. Hey, Madame Rootabega.
Michael Matthew, please continue on with your story. It is so interesting at Café Anyway.
Anyway.
Well, then a kid. Thank you, Madame Rootabega. There's a little kid, a teenager. I think he just got out of school. He's riding his dirt bike on the sidewalk on my side, going opposite direction of traffic, which is illegal, by the way. I once got a ticket when I was like 13. I got a ticket because I was riding on the sidewalk in the opposite direction of traffic. I got a ticket for that. It's illegal in California or something, or it used to be back in like the 70s. Look who else is walking in right now.
Hello there, Mike. It's Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we're gonna start a third party and make it so that kids driving in the opposite direction on a sidewalk under traffic are gonna get thrown in jail there.
Yeah, they're gonna get thrown in jail. Do you know that?
I think they already do.
Yay! They deserve it. Do you know that?
Well, I don't know. What exactly? It's Cafe, I don't know. Cafe Anyway. Well, the kid going in the opposite, so the kid's just riding his bike, and he sees this deer coming towards him, and he's like, oh, cool. And then he stops his bike, and the deer suddenly veers left, goes left, and somehow he hits my car. I wasn't like that. I think he came back. Somehow he hit my car and got on the hood of my car. And I'm like, oh, this is great. He's going to break my windshield. And, I'm gonna kill this deer. Well, no, the deer was fine. He got off he just sort of like slid over my hood. Sort of like when the Duke boys got in the General Lee and they slid over the top of the hood. Or was that Michael Knight from Knight Rider? Somebody slid over the top of a hood and went across the street, went into the opposite direction lane of traffic. He was fine that way. Now, meanwhile, I'm all shooken up because my car's just been, I'm like, oh great, he just destroyed my car. So I keep going and the deer comes back towards the sidewalk, almost hits me again. And then at this point, that fence that's around the cemetery, we've gotten to the end of the fence and he goes up and he makes it back up to the hill and he looked like he was fine. But my car, meanwhile, I'm like, oh no. And I thought the glass was shattered because I see all these little lines, but I stopped the car and I looked. It was the deer hair. It had little bits of deer hair all over the windshield. And I looked at the hood and I see these big scratches, but then I kind of wiped it with my hand and it turned out it was just like mud, like dirt from the deer's hooves. And he didn't actually scratch my hood. Either that or my Saturn Vue is super strong and resilient. And a supercar. And you shouldn't make fun of Saturn Vues ever again, even though I know you want to make fun of Saturns. But let's look at the podcast picture.
And here's today's podcast picture.
I would show you a picture of my hood after the deer encounter, but it'd be pretty boring because there really wasn't much there. The hair was just little hairs. And where he did actually run into my car at first, on the kind of the edge of the hood, there is like a couple little dents. So I don't know if I should report this to my insurance or not. This in some way, if they are listening to this, I guess I have just reported it to my insurance, but it was a strange experience. No, the picture is of Basil the Boxer, Floyd the Floorman, and I all together. Oh, speaking of Floyd.
Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. What an amazing story that was with the deer.
Yeah. I know, it took everything out of me to tell that story. It took everything out of me the rest of the day. I was like shaking all day. It was like that deer wanted to commit suicide, throwing himself on my hood like that, but I felt bad. I felt really bad for the deer. And so Basil the Boxer's in the picture today because I feel this sort of this sadness when I see a deer's kind of look. Deer is the plural form of deer is deer, Mike. Thank you. People forget that. So deer in general are wonderful creatures, and my dog Basil the Boxer has these kind of long legs like a deer does, and Basil the Boxer likes to chase deer. Maybe this is karma for that. I don't know.
Mike, that was a fascinating story. Because I'm Floyd the Floorman. I don't know what else to say here.
Stephen Colbert replaced Lena Dunham on Wait, Don't Tell Me last weekend. It was hilarious because Lena Dunham was supposed to be on the show and she wasn't. So last second they got Stephen Colbert because they were taping the show in Brooklyn, and they got to do the show right away because the jokes have to do with current events. They do a great job with current event jokes. And Glenn Washington replaced Bill Curtis as the host, the announcer of the show. Bill Curtis from Anchorman, if you ever saw that movie. He's the narrator of that show, of that movie. And he's on a couple of TV shows. He's on that network, that cable network called Decades, where they show old television shows like I Love Lucy, but they let you binge watch. They'll show a bunch all at the same time, and you see them in order. So you and in the correct sequence, so you see like what is supposed to happen over time in the particular characters' lives. Glenn Washington hosts a podcast called Snap Judgment, and I once saw Glenn Washington at a Stitcher award show. Stitcher podcast. It was the Podcast Awards. I don't know if they still do it, but they did it about 3 years ago at the chapel in the Mission District of San Francisco. And Glenn Washington got up there. I'm not a huge fan of his show because I don't like that storytelling type thing where, like the way I told that story about the deer, I tried to get it all out at once. And I didn't want to do any dramatic pauses. Of course, I got interrupted by my stupid characters that walk in.
Mike, that's very rude day, Ted Patty.
Yeah, we're gonna start a third party and throw you in jail. Do you know that?
Anyway, Café Anyway. That was...
Anyway.
Glenn Washington has a very popular podcast called Snap Judgment. And he was the host of the award show. And he made a funny comment about, hey, if your friends don't know what a podcast is, they're either really, really old, or I don't know, he had some punchline to that joke, or they're dead, or they're a deer that just threw themselves on your hood and they're dead. No, that deer is alive and well in the mountains of the East Bay, or at least I keep telling myself that. But Stephen Colbert answered some of these Lena Dunham questions they were asking him. Like, what's it like to be in bed with Adam Driver? You go back and listen to it. I can't do it justice. Wait, don't tell me. The podcast. Snap Judgment, the podcast? Maybe that's your thing. It's not mine. I couldn't get into it. All right, we're going to get into the segment Ain't Life Grand. But first, let me just mention that the website, mikesdailypodcast.com, has all the past podcast pictures, past drawings of all the Café Anyway characters. It even has a link to Amazon if you'd like to help us out and you're going to buy anything on Amazon. Go through the Amazon link at mikesdailypodcast.com and that helps us out. There's also a PayPal link. You can click on that and help us out. That way you get a special greeting from all the Café Anyway characters. And there's all the past interviews and whatnot. Check out all the whatnot and all the places to listen to the show at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Ain't life grand.
I can't believe, what the hell is this place anyway?
First off, Trump had a news conference yesterday that, get used to this, folks. If you haven't noticed this yet, Trump does a very stream of unconsciousness, or whatever consciousness he has. He likes to do that kind of a speech. Nothing is prepared. Whereas Obama was very halted and thought about everything he said before he said it and did a lot of uhs. What we're gonna do is we're gonna change that policy. Trump just says whatever's on his mind, and of course, what's always on his mind is how much he hates media. How much he hates how the media reports on him and calls everything fake news. Whereas it's news, Mr. Trump, and we're just reporting on you and saying what you're saying. He's probably going to say that the press conference that he did yesterday was completely fake news. But President Trump aired his grievances. This, according to the Washington Post, they were there, and President Trump aired his grievances against the news media, the intelligence community, and his detractors in a sprawling stream of consciousness news conference. And that's actually how the Washington Post put it. Stream of consciousness news conference. Capping an extraordinary 4 weeks in office. Yes, it's been 4 weeks. Marked by tumult, disarray, and infighting. The beleaguered chief executive defended his advisors against claims of improper contacts with Russia and claimed, contrary to widespread perceptions both inside and outside the White House, that his fledgling administration is running like a fine-tuned machine. People have picked up on that fine-tuned machine, and they are definitely running with it, because his version of a fine-tuned machine is probably what my Saturn Vue is, a fine-tuned machine. Knocking over deer left and right. No. To be honest, I inherited a mess. That's what his excuse was. He said in a news conference that lasted an hour and 17 minutes and was by turns rambling, combative, and pure Trump. Quote, "It's a mess at home and abroad, a mess." Yet moments later, the president seemed to acknowledge the widespread reports of turbulence and upheaval emanating out of the West Wing, only to claim that his White House, which so far has been marred by staff feuding, a controversial travel ban, false statements, a myriad of leaks, add to that the kitchen sink, whatever. He said it was operating seamlessly. I turn on the TV, open the newspaper, I see stories of chaos. Chaos, he said. Yet it is the exact opposite. The administration is running like a fine-tuned machine despite the fact that I can't get my cabinet approved. Because it's all the Congress's fault. It's all the Senate's fault, which is run by the Democrats. Oh wait, no, the Democrats are in the minority. There's no excuse then, Mr. Trump. You can't get anything done? Meanwhile, there's a new country, a new continent called Zealandia. This according to the Guardian. A new continent submerged in the South Pacific is a step closer to being recognized. A paper published in GSA Today, the Journal of the Geological Society of America, read it, pick it up, it's fake news, contends that the vast continuous expanse of continental crust, which centers on New Zealand, is distinct enough to constitute a separate continent. Despite the obvious question of how something so large could be previously undiscovered, the paper's authors argue that even, quote, the large and obvious in natural science can be overlooked. Zealandia covers nearly 1.9 square miles. It's not that big, my friend. Of which 94% is underwater. Yeah. Kind of don't want to live there if you're underwater. It encompasses not only New Zealand, but also New Caledonia, Norfolk Island, the Lord Howe Island Group, and Elizabeth and Middleton Reefs. The area, about the same size as the Indian subcontinent, is believed to have broken away from Gondwana, the immense landmass that once encompassed Australia and sank between 60 to 85 million years ago. It's right there near New Zealand. Go visit it today. Oh, it doesn't have an airport because it's all underwater. Nah. Well, maybe someday, you know, with the global warming, it will be, what's the word? Emerged enough. Not submerged, but out of the water enough that you'll be able to check it out. Well, whatever you do this weekend, I hope you don't get your life interfered with by a deer. Don't interfere with a deer. I found out the hard way that that's not a good thing. But actually, it ended up being much better. I mean, just a tiny little dent. I think I got out of that pretty well. Everyone I've told that story to then tells me their story about, you know, oh my gosh, Mike, I ran into a deer once and blah, blah, blah. It's sad. I think what I'm trying to say is I like deer. Do I like deer meat? I've only had deer jerky once. And maybe yesterday was karma for that too. Who knows? Next show, it's going to be Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer. Floyd, you're coming back. Ah! Well put, Floyd. As we go outside a Café Anyway. Hey, it's a little wet out here. Let's enjoy our President's Day weekend, shall we? And happy birthday to the wonderful girl who voiced this years ago, and I still play it. Take it away, Ariel. Happy birthday.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!